Hi friends, Arthur Brooks here. I write the How to Build a Life column in The Atlantic that comes out every Thursday morning. Your guide to living a better life based on the science of happiness. Well, this week, I'm writing about the difference between your I self and your me self. Now, what's that all about? You know, when you're looking in a mirror, there's kind of two people there. There's the observer and there's the observed. Understanding this is critically important to your happiness. It's not just a little fact that is kind of interesting. No. One of the biggest problems that we have is that we need both I self and me self. You need to observe the world so that you can survive and thrive, but you need the me self so that you have an understanding of who you are and your place in society and in the world. You got to have a self-concept. Well, the big problem is not that we can break ourselves into I self and me self, that you're looking at your image in the mirror and you're being observed. The problem is that we overweight the me self, that we're observed too much. There's too much consideration in our lives about people seeing us and what we think about other people think about us. You get my point, don't you? This has made all the worse with social media and all the modern communication techniques in which it's easy to look at your notifications. It's like a big mirror in front of you all the time. What do you need? What do I need? What do we all need? More I self, more observation to take in the world without judgment. Now, why do I say do we need more of that? Well, to begin with, I'd be probably a better person if it weren't all me self. But more to the point, for How to Build a Life, my column in The Atlantic, you'll be happier if you do. There's a lot of research that shows that when you're observing something at some remove, that your happiness rises and your anxiety falls. In contrast, when it's all me self, when you're the one who's observed, your emotions yo-yo around all over the place, depending on whether or not you have a perception that the me self is positive or the me self is negative. You're being managed by the me self. You manage the I self. Do you want to be in control? Well, the question is, how are you going to do that? How are you going to be more observer and less observed? Well, there are a few ways to think about this. Number one, get mirrors out of your life. I mean, not completely. I'm not asking you to toss out all your mirrors, put them out by the curb on garbage day. You need something for me, well, I was going to say to shave in. Obviously, I'm not worried too much about that. But we want to actually be able to look in the mirror from time to time. The problem is, literally or metaphorically, there are too many mirrors in our lives. What I literally recommend is getting rid of all but maybe 2 or 3 mirrors in your whole house. Something else you can do is get rid of the metaphors for the mirrors, like on social media, turning off your notifications. Make it harder to see your reflection or your virtual reflection. That's number one. Number two, stop judging everything all the time. Now, I realize that when you're observing the world, it's easy to judge the world, but that's the problem. Just observing it without judgment is a much better way to get through the day. Let me give you an example. You know, let's say that somebody gives you a cup of coffee. I'm crazy about coffee. I'm a total coffee guy. So I know the difference between good and bad coffee. Somebody hands me a cup of coffee that's been cooking for a few hours, and I'm like, ugh, this is awful coffee. It's actually much better to say, this coffee is bitter, without judgment. Why? Because when I say this is awful coffee, what I've done is I've diverted attention from observing the coffee to an observation of my own feelings about the coffee. I just went to me self, and that's an invidious thing to do. That's an unhappy thing to do, because I'm sitting in the realm of my feelings, which are now managing me. Spend more time observing, less time judging. I'll tell you more about that in a second on how to do this. And last but not least, think about things that put you into a state of awe. I have a friend named Dacher Keltner, who's a psychologist at the University of California at Berkeley. He writes about the significance of being around things that give you a sense of wonder. You know, an incredible sunset. For me, it's the works of Johann Sebastian Bach. The stuff that makes you go, whoa! Amazing. Why is that important? Because what we find is that will take you out of me self and put you right into I self every single time. So what should you do? One of the ways to think about that is to give yourself a day now and then that's dedicated to the I self. Don't put in a big agenda of things that are going to make you feel one way or the other. Just live your life, spend your day as much as you can in a state of observation, without judgment. Make sure that you're spending lots of time doing things that give you a sense of awe and wonder. Make sure that That you're not, under any circumstances you can afford to, looking at your own reflection, virtually or literally. A day, as much as you can, of I self. It's going to be hard because we're in bad habits. But the more you do it, the more you're going to like it, and the more you're going to want to do it again, because the happier you're going to get. I hope you found this useful. Come back for more of these ideas and read my column every Thursday morning. And while you're there, just for fun, maybe subscribe to The Atlantic. They'd appreciate that, and so would I. See you next week.